What's going on, everybody? We're back at it again with a little different, kind of a different video, but it's about Monster Hunter Wilds. Since we all know that you can now have 2 weapons in the game, well, technically 2 weapons, but it's your main weapon and then your secondary that your sacred is going to be carrying with you. I'm going to be going over some possibilities of weapon combos if you're quite haven't made your mind up, or maybe something you haven't thought of, or just kind of more stuff that's what I think is going to be viable in a lot of different scenarios. Let's get into it, guys. Alrighty, so we're going to start off this video with what I'm calling the speedrunner set, just because, let's be honest, people who want to speedrun this game are more than likely probably going to be using this, especially since our Palico may or more than likely not is going to have the choral orchestra from my bad, not Wilds, World, to kind of give your character buffs. So it's going to be hunting horn with longsword, charge blade, whatever main weapon that they're going to use. So they would probably, before they initiate the fight, they would grab the hunting horn, buff them, and then they would swap weapons and start just increasing damage as quick as possible. That's what I can see heavily that people are going to be using whenever they're going to want to speedrun, or if they're just wanting buffs. Or it might not even just be a speedrunner set, it might just be a semi-supportive set where you're going to want to, oh, you have a team of 4, but everyone's dying a lot, so let me hop on the hunting horn, give me some attack, some defense buffs, some stamina surge buffs, all these kind of buffs that you wouldn't originally be able to have in any other game. And this is probably one of the things that people were thinking of right off the bat, even though it may or may not be as viable because you're not going to be able to keep up the buffs, but even just having them for that short duration is going to make a difference in if you're able to beat the monster or not. Alright, so the second one I'm going to be going over is going to be, I'm calling it ranged and close, because I mean, it's gonna be like ranged weapons where you're not gonna typically be able to reach with any other weapon, like the melee weapons, which are hammer, dual blades, charge blade, gun lance, great sword, switch axe, and of course lance. And I'm not sure if I said longsword, but that as well, with combining that with either heavy bow gun, light bow gun, bow, or I'm tossing the insect glaive in with the range because it's the only aerial weapon, so you're able to hit monsters that are flying that you typically wouldn't be able to with any other weapon. But this combo I think is going to be very, not the most beginner friendly in a way, but definitely something that's going to have a big effect with like those weapons that you won't have range with like at all whatsoever, like dual blades. Let me see, dual blades, we got potentially hammer. It doesn't have the best range. We have, I mean, greatsword has a lot more range, let's be honest. But weapons like that really lack when it comes to fighting, per se. Let's say in Wild right out, it looks like he's going to be fighting a lot, so if you're using those 2 weapons, you might not be able to hit him as much as you want to, or whenever you get into an enraged, whenever they get enraged, like in World, we have Alatrion. The moment he gets enraged, he seems like he flies forever. And it sucks if you're on a melee weapon, because all you can do is just tickle his little toesies, and it's not enough damage to do any of that. But if you're able to swap to like the bow guns, a bow, or an insect glaive, you can just sit up, you can just go at them out there in the sky. It's not going to make a difference. I definitely think it's going to be a very unique set, and who knows, there's a possibility, there's so many different possibilities that people are going to want to use and try. Also forgot to mention on the close weapons that don't really have the best of range, I forgot sword and shield. That is my bad. Alright, so we're going to do on the third one, it's going to be more or less kind of the same thing as the ranged and close, but it's more of longer reaching with shorter reaching damage. So the longer weapons like great sword, gun lance, long sword, bow, heavy bow gun, and light bow gun, bow, and like all those guns that you can reach more of a distance with, you're gonna have a lot of DPS with, but you may or may not be able to dish out damage as quick as possible. like with the short weapons, with sword and shield, dual blades, and again hammer, you can do a lot of damage with, but it comes with the effect of you're not able to reach as far as other weapons, and it's very not combo based, but very timing based with landing everything. This is kind of what I'm going to be going with per se, because I'm personally going to be going with more of like a mobility area, which is going to be, I'm going to be using dual blades and bow. Comment down below what combo you're going to be using and why is that, or if you're just going to have like a secondary weapon just to have it on there just in case. I can also see that being a possibility where people are going to just want to stick with the same weapon and not really have the secondary as a weapon that they're going to be swapping into like hardly ever. So just comment down below what you're going to use, why, and I would love to see what everyone's decisions have. Alright, so the fourth one that I'm going to be doing is it's going to be knockout and cutting. So you know, knockout, there's not many weapons that you have that are blunt damage based. I mean, you have hammer, technically the hunting horn is blunt, and part of sword and shield is, so this one kind of goes both ways, but having that ability to do some blunt damage if you know that it's heavily armored and you just need to break some armor of it instead of like severing it. Some monsters have increased damage to blunt force than cutting force, like let me see, we have the Uragon and Radabon from World. They don't really take a whole lot of damage from cutting weapons, but if you use hammer, it's going to knock the ever-loving shit out of them. So there's definitely going to be that's going to have a lot of variability. I think it's going to be very nice to have. It's going to be something that's unique, not fully unique. I guarantee you a lot of people have already thought about it because there is those two huge differences. But I mean, there's a lot of different possibilities. Alright, so we're gonna be hopping into what I'm considering like more of mobility weapons that aren't gonna slow you down, they're not going to tie you down, they're not gonna, it's more of kind of like stamina drainers in a way, but enough where you can actually get out of the way if need be, other than just block. So it's gonna be sword and shield, dual blades, insect glaive, light bow gun, and bow. All these weapons you are extremely mobile with. The one that's not as mobile I would probably put with the light bowgun, but you can, in Wilds at least, it looks like it's more mobile than what is in World, which I love. I think it's going to be a cool factor that they're adding all this different stuff in, and if you're wanting to know everything that they're adding into this game, I'm going to be making separate videos later on, like within the next couple of months, over every single weapon, kind of breaking them down. They're going to be shorter videos, but it's going to be breaking them down nevertheless of added stuff that they're adding into it and certain things that's going to be benefiting it. And last but certainly not least, this is probably what I'm going to consider the more beginner friendly to just this game in general. It's just straight up defense and DPS. And what I mean by defense, I mean like those weapons that you can have, like you're never going to take damage. So you can learn the monster's patterns until you get that figured out. And once ever you figure it out, or if you're going against something that you already have figured out truly, you can just straight up use your DPS weapon to melt it quicker. But so the defense weapons, it's going to be the lance, which is considered the literally most defensive weapon in the game. You have the gun lance, which is probably second most. You have the heavy bowgun, which if you have the right bowgun mods on it, you're not taking damage at all. You just have to know how to time it. And then the great sword, I'm kind of tossing in there because it's, I'm not gonna say the most beginner friendly, but it's definitely gonna be more of, you can still dish out a lot of damage, but it's more, you still have that blocking capability. Yes, there are some other weapons that you can block with, like the charge blade, but it also isn't the best to straight only block with that weapon. Again, Charge Blade and Sword and Shield kind of fit in both of these categories, so it's kind of hard to toss them in one section or the other. But I'm mainly putting those two in the DPS section because you can dish out more damage than what you can defend with on them, in my opinion. But yeah, as you can probably assume, now we're going to talk about like DPS weapons, which is basically all the other weapons that deal high amounts of damage relatively quickly, if not the quickest in the game, such as Sword and Shield, Dual Blades, Longsword, Switch Axe, Charge Blade, and Hammer. These weapons, other than Sword and Shield and Charge Blade, you cannot guard with, which absolutely sucks, but again, that's why they deal so much damage so quickly, because you can't block with them. So, you know, there's always a factor behind it. I mean, these are just a few combos. I might do some shorts on certain different other combos that might pair extremely well with together, but other than that, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. If you liked, leave a comment down below again what you're going to be using for the game, and if you're actually going to use a secondary weapon. I'm going to be using them because, again, Dual Blades you aren't reaching anywhere with, which is their fatal flaw. But I really want to know all y'all's ideas behind what weapons y'all are going to be using and why specifically. And other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, and go check out my sponsor, Dubby. Link down below. Peace out, guys.
I have a dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want, so I'll take it on. I'll make mistakes, but mistakes make you strong.